Hello everyone, welcome back to another episode of Incorrect Politics. Today we are going to discuss the news media and what their characteristics are in the modern political history. So, if you are a political fan, you might have heard that Donald Trump multiple times claimed that our news industry were fake news, and his claims were heavily refuted by basically almost all news media except Fox News or Breitbart News, One American Network, these kind of right-leaning companies, that his claim was baseless claim. And these two slogans of baseless claim and fake news were constantly appearing in our recent days of 2020 and 2021. Well, for one, we certainly see that the news media were having sides. CNN is clearly on the opposite side of Fox News. I personally have no opinion in media having sides because, on a pragmatic manner, no one will buy media for free and for the use of public service incomplete. For example, if I'm a right-leaning corporation owner, I will want to buy the media to try to put on some news that favors me to lower the minimum wage or trying to not have so many welfares that I have to distribute to the laborers. So, pragmatic speaking, every news media will have their stance based on who owns that media. But here's one thing different from having stance. Every reasonable man like you and like me who try to get the information from the news should be able to get an unbiased and first-hand fact that shouldn't be influenced or swayed by the opinion held by the news company. For example, the news may report some certain politician said something and report it obviously in direct manner. For example, if I said that I believe that the black immigrants should be regulated in terms of how much were coming in from the Mexico-US border, that is what I said. But if you want to comment on me being racist or me being not being respectful to the human rights, then that should be on the other side, which is out of the reporting. It should be on the opinion section of your program. But right now, many media were blurring the line between the media opinion and the fact reporting, and that doesn't apply to CNN only. It also applies to Fox News, MSNBC, and literally every media outlet. So today I'm going to point out the phony behavior between these media outlets, and when they are saying that each other that they are making fake news, they are actually saying the same people. They are all the same company, just holding different direction and different sides. So in terms of speaking of news fact reporting and opinion reporting, one of the most mentioned case would be the Wall Street Journal. As everyone knows, Wall Street Journal was separated into news section and the opinion section. And the news section, which means the ones that reports the news, were liberally leaned, so meaning that they were more favorable to Democratic Party and the Liberal Party. Sorry, not Liberal Party, but liberal ideology. On the other hand, the opinion side of the spectrum is more of the conservative part, so it's more Republican favored, and it probably favor a little bit more towards the big business because it's on the conservative side of the spectrum. Well, that one is certainly a good case, but sadly, not a lot of companies can do that. So if you actually go online and search for media bias, you'll often come across a chart which look sort of like this way. So it basically will have the x-axis and y-axis. The y-axis is regarding whether the things they're reporting were more leaning to reporting facts or reporting opinion or even fabricated information. And on the partisan bias is conservative and liberal. So the more important part of this graph is on the y-axis, because even if a news media outlet is reporting on the conservative bias, if it is reporting facts, then we can basically see that because facts cannot be fabricated, if it's mostly reporting fact, then the most manipulation it can done is probably only selectively reporting, which is another thing that we're not going to cover today. But this chart is often biased in a lot of ways because it is based on usually one or two institution or one or two scholar which himself or herself is also biased towards a certain direction. As we all know, the university and the scholar these days were most likely left-leaning or Democratic Party leaning. So the chart of these usually puts a certain right-leaning factor to almost every single media outlet. For example, if we can see Fox News were down here, and One American Network is up here, and Breitbart News is right here. Well, for a lot of people, Fox News is at least considered a mainstream media, while Breitbart News, a lot of people were saying that like Newsmax, like OAN, they were considered a very right-leaning, hyper-partisan media outlet. Yet on this chart, Fox News, a mainstream media, were put down inside this propaganda containing misleading information section and were put inside the orange rectangle, so it's unfair interpretation of the news. Meanwhile, the CNN, which is very unfriendly to President Donald J. Trump, were put inside the neutral part of the spectrum, which is still under opinion and fair precaution. Well, that's sorry, not precaution, persuasion. But certainly, I don't believe so, because if you actually go on YouTube and look at the section of these two news media outlets, you will find that what they're doing are very surprisingly similar. Let's take a look at this clip. Well, for the copyright issue, I cannot play the entire clip for you. But so basically, this clip is Brianna Keilar, a CNN anchor, trying to report that Fox News is unfair. So, you can take a look.
The frail, the weak, the cognitively struggling, clearly Commander-in-Chief, or is he, did not do well today.
Other Fox banners imply that Biden basically belongs in a home, and one of their main experts on this literally calls in from his retirement home.
Alright, so I'm going to play for this few seconds to avoid copyright, but look at this. They're trying to point out the phoniness of this banner by Fox News, but the banner they're using themselves, this banner itself is also a very opinionated banner. So basically, CNN were accusing Fox News to using banner to provide manipulating and misleading information by using itself an own opinionated and manipulating banner. So this is actually a very phony part of CNN. Well, I'm not saying that Fox News is reporting original news, because from a few seconds ago, this, so I'm seeing if I can, wait. So from this banner, this of course is more like a meme that you can find on Reddit or Instagram or something, but this one isn't necessarily much better, because obviously CNN itself also have this entire show is actually an opinion show. It's not a news reporting show, and they're using Fox News opinion show to say that Fox News doesn't report facts. Well, instead they should use the time when Fox News report fact to say, if even Fox News were reporting facts, they were using these banners, then you can actually claim that Fox News were more like a entertainment company. But no, that's not the case at all. So from this case, we can see that while CNN claimed to report original news, the way they report is also art. Because if we actually take a look at this one, 8 years ago, when people were trying to slam a certain party, so for example, the so-called partisan manner, like CNN tried to slam John Brenner from 8 years ago, it says Brenner to read, go fuck yourself. Well, I cannot say that to be avoiding censored, but 8 years ago, this headline, although it's slaming Republican Party, of course, but at least it's a fact. Mr. Brenner actually said this word to Mr. Reid. But right now, just take a look at this one. 2 days ago by CNN, Mean Girl group chat, Keilar reacts to Trump's interview with Hannity. Since when did exactly that one person's reaction should be mattered so much that it should be reported as a news under the name of CNN, a company that represents a lot of people and the entire society's eyes to the social issues? Well, certainly never under this case, because Keilar isn't some times of Nobel laureate, she's just a news anchor. So this interaction video itself is a really professional behavior from the CNN. It's just like me. I'm also a political pundit. I'm obviously right-leaning. If my interaction to CNN or to Fox News were portrayed as a national headline, what would you think? You wouldn't think that my opinion should be respected as much as it's a only principle that's correct, right? So neither is this Keilar news, but a lot of CNN's anchor were doing these kind of show. Anderson Cooper 360 is also another example of this. So from this case, we can see that CNN isn't necessarily doing the so-called fact reporting as they might claim themselves. And in fact, if you actually go on and search for YouTube, if you search, okay, just type it in, CNN and Biden, you can take a look at all these results. Biden asked when US will get back to normal. Here's his response. Biden and Harris speak. Biden cracks jokes. Joe Biden addressed the nation after electoral victory. Well, all these news were more like a, I'll say, positive portrayal of Joe Biden. But if we change the wording to CNN Trump, Then take a look at these. Mean Girl group chat. What Liz Channing has figured out about Donald Trump. Trump clashes with Jim Acosta in texting exchange. Angry Donald Trump. You can see that CNN on a whole is reporting very unfavorably to Donald Trump. And we just did a very easy research on this YouTuber. We can already see that. Well, right now, we can actually take a look at Jim Acosta's case, which is this video. I've actually prepared it for you. So this one, angry Donald Trump clashes with CNN reporter at news conference. Let me play a few seconds for you.
But they weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. These were people. This was an actual, it happened a few days ago. And
they're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
Okay, so right now we can certainly see that there's a heated exchange between Donald Trump and the reporter, which is Jim Acosta, representing CNN at that time. CNN's reporter Jim Acosta, he's not asking questions to Donald Trump. He already has an answer. He's just trying to get Donald Trump to admit that. And obviously Donald Trump, in represent of the government, he's not going to admit that. But then CNN portrayed him as being disagreeable to the reporter, and because CNN put their own opinion as the only principle that's correct, so Donald Trump, who is disagreeing with Jim Acosta, were portrayed as an angry people. If you actually take 1,000 steps back and think about it, President of the United States, this is a very holy position, and Donald Trump was duly elected. He's elected constitutionally. 48 or 47% of the popular vote decided to put Donald Trump into the presidency. So he represents America legally. So everyone should hold at least a certain amount of respect to the President of the United States. Yet we can completely see none of them. Even from this case, you can see that a reporter, he's believing that he's 100% correct. And he's pointing out the disinformation from the president, who the reporter clearly thinks that he knows more about it than the president. Isn't that something? Well, I'm not saying that the authorities of president cannot be challenged, but this was, I believe it's over the roof, at least from, because I'm an Asian, right? Because I'm an Asian, from my perspective, that's unimaginable, at least in my country. Well, I'm not from China, I'm from Taiwan. So my country have a Democratic elected official, but I still believe that there's no certain respect inside this political exchange. So we can actually look at another case where CNN were clearly putting their opinion, in fact reporting two things fabricated into one. So this is a reaction video from CNN when they reported that Joe Biden has been elected the President of the United States.
It's easier to be a parent this morning. It's easier to be a dad. It's easier to tell your kids character matters. It matters. Telling the truth matters. Being a good...
Alright, I'm going to play these few seconds, but this was actually infuriating for me because, again, as I just said, Donald Trump was elected president duly under Constitution and legally, yet this man, as a news correspondent on CNN, he is trying to say that the previous president were not a good example for their kids. This is a very big claim under normal occasions, but when it comes to politics, people suddenly doesn't matter this at all. And because of him, a lot of audience who's watching CNN will now think that, wow, our biggest news cable network was saying that Donald Trump is a bad guy and Joe Biden is a good guy. So it's alright to say that Donald Trump is bad for our kids and Joe Biden is the only help to our kids. That's already away from news reporting. The news reporting only part that's correct news right now is Joe Biden is elected the 46th president. What he just said, none of them were fact reporting. All of them are thoughts. Yet CNN were delivering this prime time, this very moment where it report that Joe Biden was elected president, to let this guy to speak about his thoughts on President Donald Trump and Joe Biden's victory. Isn't that a very unfair interpretation? At least under my consideration, Fox News did that when they report the victory of Donald Trump in 2016. I can find the segment for you. So I have it here, but I cannot find it quite on the Fox News channel itself, so I'm going to play it from some other channels which has the montage.
We've updated our electoral scorecard.
We are going to make this decision now. The Fox News decision desk has called Pennsylvania for Donald Trump, this means that Donald Trump will be the 45th president of the United States, winning the most unreal, surreal election we have ever seen. This candidacy starting on an escalator ride.
Alright, so from that you can clearly see that Fox News were not having some white men coming out and say it's finally time for a political incorrect to rise, or someone from maybe the Rust Belt area to say that we finally have our coal industry back. There were none of them. It's just professional fact reporting. And right now CNN were claiming that Fox News were inferior than them in terms of their news integrity. No, that's not the case. I don't believe so. I certainly believe that Fox News has a lot of opinion time where it's using its channel to promote the right-wing theory. But it's no better in CNN, no better in MSNBC. And I believe that everyone should learn to view this information independently from all these channels to garner your own information and your own thoughts. That will be all of our video today, and I will going to cover on how to find the actual first-hand information in my future videos. If you do want to see that, please like, share and subscribe to my channel, and I hope to see you guys next time. Have a great one. Goodbye.